Hello, and welcome to Scrap TV, your video forum on the ISRI and Scrap Magazine websites. I'm Kent Kaiser, your Scrap TV host, and today we're very fortunate to have with us Scott Newell of the Shredder Company in Canutillo, Texas, near El Paso. First off, welcome Scott, and thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
Scott is a 2015 recipient of ISRI's Lifetime Achievement Award. Scott is renowned the world over as an expert in automobile shredding technology, and he has served the industry's trade associations, including ISRI, for decades. First off, congratulations on receiving that award, Scott.
Thank you very much. As I said in my remarks, nobody gets to this position without a lot of help from other people, and I'm very thankful to the people who helped me get there.
I was just going to ask, how does it feel to receive such an award? First of all, were you surprised?
I was surprised.
Really?
I was very surprised. I don't know why. I just didn't ever think about it. I mean, I know I'm getting older, but I didn't think about it. So it was kind of interesting from that point of view. And then the moment they said, well, you should make a few remarks, I started thinking about the people who helped me survive in this industry up to this point. And that list got longer and longer and longer. And,
Absolutely.
in fact, I woke up at 3 o'clock this morning, since I just was working on this last night, with, I'm going, oh my gosh, I forgot this guy, and I forgot this. And a lot of people contributed to making it possible for me to survive this long.
Absolutely. Well, how many years actually have you been full-time in this industry?
I have been full-time for 56 years, because when I was 20, I started running a scrapyard full-time, and I did go to university for 2 years after I was running a scrapyard.
Oh my goodness.
But I would say that I was working in the scrapyard since I was 12. I mean, I ran the scale when I was 13 or 14.
Oh my goodness.
I remember buying a steel radiator one time, and my father was so unhappy with me because I had failed to put the magnet on that copper brass radiator, which I thought, and it turned out to be steel.
Oh, no.
So I thought, oh man.
Oh gosh,
One of those life lessons.
Yes, I'm sure you have many of those throughout your decades in this industry. Well, listen, can you tell me what have been some of your most personally rewarding accomplishments in your long career? I'm sure there's some real landmarks and milestones for you.
Well, I think that delivering technical papers has been very satisfying to me. And being asked to speak in places, I mean, in the last 2 years I've spoken in Moscow 3 times. I've spoken in Singapore, in Beijing, and many places in the United States. And I find that very satisfying. There must be some kind of teacher complex running inside of me.
Well, you've got a lot of knowledge to share, that's for sure. But how about in your the career in the shredding industry or the scrap industry? I mean, there must be moments you remember as, pivotal moments in the career.
After my father passed away in 2000, and where Scotty and I decided to go away from the Newell family, and we started the Shredder Company. And I was very fortunate to have a Japanese trading company, a fellow that I had met on the golf course, invest $20 million with us and allow us to start the Shredder Company really and rebuild a foundry, and we did it in a first-class way. So that was a high point for me, to be able to step out of that. Then the family was a little bit tough after my dad died for a little bit, but after 2 or 3 years we all got back together, and it's been very loving since, and I'm very thankful to my family for, my sister and brother have just been very supportive and very great. My mom is 94 now and still alive, and she goes to the office every day. I mean, this is a family that goes to work.
That's great. You definitely have put in your time, that's for sure. Nelson, you've seen the entire shredding industry develop. I mean, the Newell family is one of the creators of the technology. Can you discuss a few milestones in the shredding business, how you saw it progress in technology terms?
Yeah, the first shredders were pretty light. I mean, we used to take the frame off of a car, for example, and it was a big step up when we found out we could shred a frame. Then we found out we could shred an engine block.
Okay.
And we went along like that for quite a few years. And then somebody out of the scrap industry named Jeff Cole, I don't know if you remember Jeff,
No.
he's pushing me to shred heavy scrap.
Okay.
And I need to give him credit for pushing us to make the first super heavy duty shredder.
Okay.
You know, and so that was a big milestone.
Okay.
Because we made the shredder heavier, we made the hammers stronger, and
Sure.
so then we could do that. The next, one of the next big step-ups was the double feed roller.
Okay.
My father's idea was basically that like a washing machine, where you had a roller on the top and a roller
Right.
on the bottom. And we found out that it was too much trouble to maintain the one on the bottom, and so we put two on the top, and our feeding got better.
Excellent.
But the biggest single improvement that improved productivity in shredding plants was the application of computers
Oh, okay.
and the development of smart shredding system. Because today the shredder runs by a computer, and so you have thousands of decisions every second that are being made to
Right.
get the feedback, and so you can come much closer to the productivity.
Excellent.
When we first in the modern shredder era, we would rate our shredders at 2 tons per 100 horsepower per hour.
Okay.
Okay? After we put, so that means a 2,000 horsepower, you know, could run for 40 tons an hour.
Okay.
After we put the computer on the machine, we can do it to 3 or 4 tons per 100 horsepower per hour. So that same 2,000 horsepower today could produce up to 80 tons an hour. And during all that time period, we reduced the man hours per ton from 1 man hour a ton to 1/10 of a man hour per ton that it takes to run a plant. So, yeah, there's been tremendous progress there.
And I know that a lot's happened on the downstream as well.
Yeah. I was going to say that's the other very, very important thing that happened in shredding was the better separation of materials.
Okay.
I can remember when I was flying back from Salt Lake City where I had visited the Bureau of Mines
Okay.
for a different something, and I saw them using a rising current of water to separate various densities of materials. And all the way back to San Antonio at that time, I was thinking, gosh, you know, maybe we could clean up our non-ferrous better and do this. And so we built a little experimental machine. And at the time, we were doing about 20,000 tons a month of scrap. I said, gosh, you know what? If we could get $1 a ton more, that's a lot of money. Well, you know, it turned out to be, by the time we did that, and then heavy media, in 1974 was a huge year for us. We made more than $1 million a month running that metal separation plant. So that money and some other money that we made during that time became the foundation for the Newell family fortunes. And it was just a big deal. And since then, of course, we've developed into the separations with not only heavy media, but with sensor sorting, and then with air tables, and we really get a higher percentage of what's available today than any time up until now. Now, I think there's still progress that we can make.
Well, wasn't it true in the old days that the whole non-ferrous portion was just discarded? Or was it always
At the
recovered?
very, very first, we handpicked a little bit. And,
Okay.
and we could get about, let's say we could get $20 worth of non-ferrous for every ton of steel scrap we shredded. Today, with modern technology, we can get $100 or $120 worth of non-ferrous for every ton of steel scrap shredded. Now, two things change. One, collection techniques change much, but also more non-ferrous is in the automobile today.
Right.
I mean, just imagine your car.
Right.
How much copper wire is in your car? See, there's about a mile worth of copper wire.
Interesting.
Think about it.
Wow.
Every headlight, every airbag, every little light,
Sure.
the trunk light, every window up and down.
Sure.
I mean, there's a huge amount of copper.
Absolutely. A lot more aluminum, too.
There's more aluminum, but aluminum is about half the weight, about 1/3 of the value of the non-ferrous.
Okay.
Copper's worth 3
Much more.
times, 4 times more than
Sure.
the aluminum.
Sure.
So if you don't get that, you're getting less than
I see.
you should get out of the collection.
Gotcha. gosh. Well, now, Scott, looking ahead, since you're so plugged into this technology, do you see any other evolutionary developments coming down the pike for shredders, or have they kind of reached the pinnacle?
It's funny because I've been making speeches on this subject for about 25, 30 years. Every year I say, we made tremendous progress this year, and I think that's about it. The next year I'm making the same speech. Wow, we made tremendous progress this year, but that's about it. But so if you sit here right now and ask me what do I think is going to be the next major step, I don't know exactly. I know that we have, I'll say it this way, I've been doing this now for 50-something years.
Okay.
And during that time, I learned a lot of things to not do.
Okay.
I learned a few things to do, but a lot of things to not do.
Okay.
And so I don't know whether what I want to do next is going to be one of the things that I should not have done or one of the things that I should do again.
Hey, that's how it grows.
Yeah, that's how it goes. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, now you are working now with your son, Scotty Newell III, and your granddaughter, Katie. Is that correct?
Yes.
How much do you enjoy that? How does that make you feel?
Oh, I love that. It's very, very satisfying to me. It's kind of interesting because everybody, there's an old saying, every father wants to fight with his son, but he wants his son to win. And I think I had that same relationship with my father. I mean, occasionally there's some father wants to teach his son, and the son resists that, but you work through it. And I have had the same issues with Scotty. I mean, he wants to be his own man.
Sure.
And as much, one of the things I've learned to do is, as much as possible, I say, if we have a disagreement and he wants to do it one way, I want to do it another, unless my gut feeling is that it's a disaster,
Right.
I say, okay, do it.
Right.
On the theory that we'll learn from it and keep going.
Right.
Katie is just a real charmer, and she has a marketing degree, and I've just been so impressed with how well she's received in the industry and her energy level and going around. I mean, she's just really, really great.
Well, that's wonderful. Such a joy to work with family, I'm sure.
It is. And, I mean, I have a 10-year-old daughter named Grace, and she has been with me to these conventions. She wasn't here today to this convention because she's in a ballet performance of some kind. But she has been with me all around the world to all these other meetings. She was with me in Moscow when I was speaking and in China many times. And so I had just this recently printed a business card for her. She is assistant to the chairman in sales division. So,
She must love that.
yeah, it's quite cute.
Well, now, over your decades in the industry, you've done a lot of service in the associations, in ISRI and its predecessors, as well as BIR, the international group. Why did you think that was important?
As I said in my remarks earlier today, my father told me from a very early time, he said, Scott, I have never been to an ISRI meeting where I did not learn enough to more than pay for everything I was doing. And so he was the one who started us going there. I mean, I was at the predecessors for ISRI and from the time I was a little boy. And then when I started doing non-ferrous separation in Europe, the BIR became important to me because we had our OIMET plate in Frankfurt. And so I knew a lot of people there. And once I got plugged into that, it's just so much fun to meet people and to compare stories.
Yeah.
And so many people that I've learned from throughout this time period.
Sure.
And I totally support that. I mean, it's just a very, very good thing.
Oh, that's wonderful. Very wonderful. Now, after so many years in the business, what is it that you find still enjoyable or that keeps you in it?
I laughingly say sometimes, I say I'm lucky I had a rich father because I can afford to do this. Even if I could make more money somewhere else, I do this because I like it so much. I enjoy it. I enjoy the people. I mean, it's great for me to come to these meetings, for example, because I meet some people and revisit friendships. And, 5 minutes in the hallway with somebody keeps your friendship going for another year.
Right. Sure.
I mean, and I just have a wide network of friends, and it's very satisfying for me to do.
Sure.
And so I say, the other thing I say sometimes is I say, I hope nobody ever figures out how much I really like to do this. They might charge me to do this job rather than pay me.
Well, now, those of us who've known you for a while, we recognize your expertise in this niche. Do you view yourself as an expert in this niche?
I see myself having been 50 years worth of making mistakes. I know a lot of things to not do. And I think if that qualifies me to, I think I know about as much about shredding and metal separation as almost anybody. I mean, I learn from people. I mean, hey, there's a lot of smart people in the world. And so I'm not pretending that I know everything by any stretch. And I'm pretty open-minded about, oh my gosh, that's a good idea. You know, okay, let's do that. But in general, yeah, my resume says I'm an expert. And I wrote the resume, so.
Well, now you've also lived on both sides of the equation. You've been on the scrap processing side and run scrap yards, and you've been an equipment manufacturer for that equipment. So you do have kind of a unique qualification.
I think that was more important than I used to recognize, was the fact that from the time I was 20 until this year, I always had responsibility for at least one shredding plant. And at some points I had a responsibility for 10 shredding plants.
Oh.
And so I was getting daily reports. The practice of asking for those daily reports from the operators led us to make a better computer system so that when we eventually did go to the digital age, we wrote better, smarter programs because I knew what to ask for.
Sure.
In our smart shredding system, for example, the one I said, it makes such a big difference to the shredders. Half of it is operation. The other half is data for the manager.
Right.
And there's a lot of trend lines and a lot of data, and there's all kinds of information that I used to ask for in person by hand. Now I get the report, and you get the summary.
Sure.
And our programmers are smart enough that when something shows up on the report that is out of range, it's flashing red.
Oh,
so you don't even have to be too smart to figure out what's going on. I mean, I'm very proud of that.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm very proud of that.
Well, now, what would you say are your plans or intentions going forward? I mean, do you plan to keep doing this forever, or do you see any slowdown in your future?
I plan to do this for forever. I hope to have a little bit more discretionary time from time to time. I mean, I'd like to extend some of my business trips to look around a little bit more.
Sure.
I have thought also, I mean, I'd like to spend a few more afternoons sipping a double cappuccino, on an Italian sidewalk cafe. I mean, I don't want to be in such a rush all the time. Yeah. But it's always challenging, and so every day when I wake up, I have things to do, and so I need more discretionary time.
Okay. If you had that time, what would you do most likely? What are some of your hobbies or favorite pastimes?
Well, I haven't played golf as much as I want to. I mean, I was on a high school golf team and a college golf team, and I played near scratch golf for a big part of my life, and my handicap is drifting up because I've been too busy. So yeah, I would like a little bit more time to go to the golf course.
Excellent.
I also like to snow ski. I like to play tennis. But my biggest passion at the moment is listening to audiobooks.
Oh, okay.
Because I can, multitask. I can be on the treadmill and listen to it, or I can be driving somewhere. And I've been getting through about 50 books a year right now. And it's interesting. I mean, I mentioned I.D. Shapiro as being one of my mentors earlier, and I don't know if you were lucky enough to know I.D. He was the president of our institute at one time. He was 50-something when I was 28. He's about 28 years older than me.
Okay.
And he did a couple of things which really opened my eyes to things. He was a big game hunter, and I was a photographer. Okay. And he took me with him to the Arctic.
Oh, boy.
And we went on sleds for a muskox hunt. We went to the Central America for a jaguar. We went to the Himalayas for blue sheep. But this is a guy who's 70 years old. I was in his car, and he had Italian language tapes in his car. And I'm going, I.D. And he goes, you're 70 years old, you're studying Italian. Well, he says, oh, I like it. said, but don't worry about me too much. He says, I don't even buy green bananas. He was a pretty funny guy.
Well, listen, thank you so much for the time again, Scott, and congratulations on the award, well deserved.
Thank you very much. I've always enjoyed speaking with you, and I really appreciate what the Institute has done for me here. And I'm very honored with that, and I'm very thankful. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. This is Ken Kaiser with Scrap TV. Thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you again next time.